There's a new coffee machine that's come out of China that looks identical almost to those Italian traditional espresso machines, and it's cheap, much cheaper than its Italian alternatives. However, does it mean you should choose it over the traditional Italian machines, guaranteed to be manufactured in Milan, guaranteed quality? Well, let's check it out and you decide for yourself. G'day mate, I'm Ryan, your coffee coach, and today I want to talk about the new Turin Gallatin espresso machine, which looks fabulous on the surface, but it is manufactured in China, and we do have this sort of stigma about Chinese manufacturing be low quality and things won't last and then there's no guarantees. So is it worth taking that risk, diving into a new espresso machine from a relatively new company, which has a good reputation so far, and saving yourself a couple of hundred, maybe even 1,000, depending on what other models you're looking at, to risk it buying a machine that looks good, that might work well, but might fall over in a couple of years? I'm not really sure. Well, Turin's a well-known espresso grinder manufacturer, and they have done these DF64s, DF54s, DF83s, like great grinders that have a really good reputation, that last, are well-built, solid machines. And they've also manufactured an espresso machine called the Turin Legato, which was released about a year ago and has been well received as well, albeit a few hiccups here and there of some reports being that it's not going to last. However, on the surface, it looks fantastic. And it might not be fair to say that that machine doesn't last because it's almost competing with appliance machines, which I know it's going to do better than most appliance machines. Now, the Gallatin is their next level machine, and they really have stepped it up. I think they've gone after that market, that chrome-plated, super polished, mirror reflective espresso machine, that steampunk style. Me personally, I'm a little bit over it. I've seen it for so many years, and I prefer the modern approach to the espresso design. But I have to say that if you're interested in looking at these, they look very similar to the ECM, the Profitex, the Bazeras, Isomax, all of those brands that do the heat exchange E61 group heads. And I'm not an engineer, so I can't talk about the inside, but from the outside, this looks identical. And in fact, it actually looks better than most of the machines in its class. It has this black walnut timber accents on the portafilter handle, on the actuators, on the lever. It is fantastic looking. In fact, it looks very similar to the ECM Mechanica, right down to a lot of the functions and features that are on there, but it's $1,000 cheaper. So that's a significant savings if it can hold up its own like the ECM does. And ECM is known for their premium quality builds. So whether you like the look of it or not, the build itself is one of the most solid and easy to maintain and service machines out there on the market. The Turin have a lot to live up to. Yes, it's a 58mm portafilter. That's a standard commercial portafilter, so that's great to see. They haven't done anything unusual or outside of the box there. Also love the fact that they went for the steam and hot water actuators as opposed to the rotary knobs, which I just think look nicer, and the fact that they're timber, even better. So it's a beautiful looking machine, and you can't fault it from the outside. Along with its features. The features of it are not huge, they're not over the top. It is just a heat exchange. It has a vibratory pump. Whilst it doesn't have a pressure gauge for the boiler and stuff like that, it does actually have one for the brew head, which means that you're able to get the exact pressure at your point of extraction, which is normally an aftermarket thing or an add-on, which you have to pay a couple of $100 more. So the fact that this has come with it, built in, along with those timber accents, and it's so much cheaper than your equivalent ECM, Bazera, all of those brands, makes it pretty enticing. It has all the standard features that you would expect from this level of machine, like your PID, temperature control, a little LED controller for it that allows you to push the temperature of the steam and your boiler down and up. Now, because I haven't actually got my hands on this machine yet, I can't tell you that the pre-infusion is actually adjustable via the LED screen or whether it's just the manual lever allowing you to play around with the pre-infusions that way. But hopefully I reach out to Turin and get one brought into Australia, although the Turin Legato hasn't yet been approved to be sold in Australia, so I think there might be some issues there with the electrical wiring. Australia has very, very strict laws on its electrical appliances, and if it doesn't pass that, they won't allow it in here. Maybe that's the reason why it's not in here in Australia yet, but certainly we can get all of their grinders here. And I did try to reach out to Espresso Outlet, so a lot of the footage is from Espresso Outlet, thanks to those guys over there in the US. If you're in the US, you can purchase it on the link below. I don't have any affiliation with Espresso Outlet, but just think it's a good way for you guys. If you want to talk to someone about it, you can. Also, don't forget to give this video a like. Thanks a lot, Ledge. And one other feature, it has just a small eco mode that allows you to reduce the power consumption if it sits idle for a certain amount of time, and you can adjust that time via the LED screen. So it is a vibratory pump instead of the rotary pump, which, you know, there's pros and cons to both of those, and depending on what your preference is, this might be important to you. The main thing that people want to know is, can it be plumbed in? Because if you're in tight quarters, you have cupboards above and you can't easily access the fill to fill up the reservoir, then yes, having it plumbed in is an advantage as well. And luckily, this has the option for both. It has the reservoir and it has the option to plumb in, and you can switch between the two as you need. Very easily, if you want to pick it up and take it with you. If you're going to a place you need to pack it down and the place that you have can't be plumbed in, then you can always switch back and revert to the tank water. Talking about small quarters, it actually is a pretty small footprint. It's only about 30 centimeters or 12 inches wide, a little bit taller, 15 inches tall. It's actually pretty compact, about the size of an A4 piece of paper in dimensions. So very, very tight. I think a lot of people like this size of machine. Some of the dual boilers get a bit too big for your bench stop, and if you're in a small apartment in the city somewhere, you know, real estate is at a premium, so you need to be able to have enough bench space to have your coffee and your grinder and any other accessories you have, as well as be able to cook on it. You don't want to be cooking on top of your espresso machine. Although you can, because it has a cup warmer. It's going to take a long time to fry your eggs, but do with that what you like. It still has a 1.7 litre water tank and a 2 litre boiler, which is enough to get you going, make a bunch of coffees on there. It's actually a decent sized boiler, given that it's such a small machine. But I'm not sure if there'll be any modding available on this machine, any aftermarket stuff that you can do to it. And again, I'm not an engineer, so you're gonna need someone to actually be able to pull this apart and check out the wiring and the complexity of the construction to see if that's gonna last as well, if it's serviceable. And like I said, on paper, this machine looks and sounds amazing. And if it's going to save you a couple of $100, maybe even $1,000, then it's definitely worth considering. However, Turin themselves have been very good at building high quality manufactured grinders and entering into the espresso realm, which has a lot more complications obviously to it. They seem to have done a decent job with the Legato, and now following it up with the Gallatin. I think it could be a really solid, low risk purchase for a lot of you people who are just looking for a great looking machine. Heat exchange as well means you can steam milk and extract your coffee at the same time, which just speeds up that workflow. These are the sort of machines that people are looking for. And like I said, I'm not a big fan of the design, but so many of my customers, people that I talk to, love that steampunk traditional Italian style. So I think this is going to appeal to a lot of people. And if we can get it here in Australia, even better. It's about $1,200 or $1,100 in the US, which is a reasonable price. The Mechanica is looking at about $2,000 US. I think it's really reasonably priced for what you get on this machine. So anyway, the next step is for me to get my hands on it, to do a deep dive for you guys. So hopefully if Turin, you watch this video, you can send me one and I can do a deeper dive for you guys. But in the meantime, I hope you like this video. I'm Ryan, your coffee coach, and as always, enjoy your brew.